For me, it is a doctor because of time, obviously. Story 1. Imagine planning a date, getting excited to go eat dinner, ordering your meal, and it finally arrives. You have to film who you're with eating theirs first and take pictures of them posing with their drink, usually with the flash on their phone, so everyone's looking at you in this cozy atmosphere with your camera lighting the place up. Your food going cold in the meantime. Exhausting. Story 2. Anything involving crystals in a serious way besides geologists. Geologists are cool. I also have nothing against gem cutters. X-ray crystallographers definitely do not bother me. Anyone working with time crystals is also welcome. Semiconductor workers, we have no quarrel. Manufacturers of diamond tools for ceramics. Sorry to have not included you. Kidney doctors, it has been brought to my attention that you spend a good deal of time looking at crystals in urine. I mean, no offense, and I'm sure there is much more to your profession. My door is always open. Organic chemists who study crystalline structures, late but not forgotten. Jewelry designers, artists, and professional beaded embroidery artists. So sorry if I offended before this edit. Story 3. I am a barber and dated a beautician, cosmetologist, once, and all she wanted to do was talk or ask questions about hair. I told her I talk about it all day at work and have no desire to talk about hair or barbering on my time off. So to answer your question, I would never date a dental hygienist. Story 4. Traveling nurse for a multitude of reasons like constant relocation or long distance for long periods of time, crazy schedules, and just being overall difficult to live a stable life around. Story 5. Nurses are interesting people. Working with nurses is the closest I've been to high school since graduating. It's like they thrive on drama. It seems like they all get pregnant at the same time, which is one of the great natural wonders of the world, like an antelope migration or something. They seem to exist as some kind of estrogen-fueled collective. Story 6. I've seen my coworkers pass each other around like salt and pepper shakers at a diner, some of whom were very much married with a family back home in the United States. Story 7. Not all doctors work non-stop. The career has a lot of scope. I work 3 12-hour shifts a week and am off every Monday and Friday, and of course Saturday and Sunday, and I make a bit more money than an average doctor. Story 8. I would never date a police officer. I think the psychological trauma that comes with that job has to bleed over into every other area of life, and it's just not something I would trust. Story 9. I am a financial advisor and work with people of all backgrounds, and everyone is different. These are my big ones, though. Doctors tend to have multiple kids and multiple divorces. They have way more debt than you think, and they have a God complex a mile away. Lawyers. I'm married to one, but we met before law school. They are very arrogant and always think they are the most intelligent person. It does not matter what the topic is. They believe they can logic it out. Financial advisors. I am one. 2 types tend to show up. The first is that they inherited their father's book of business, and the other built their business from scratch. The first is entitled with typical rich kid problems. The second tends to have an overinflated sense of self. You have to take all the rejections and keep coming back for more. Engineers. They are almost borderline autistic and overanalyze everything. I might have dated someone from this field in another life, but this mentality can be exhausting. It can eventually lead to not deciding promptly and missing opportunities. Nurses. Almost every girl I dated had a nurse for a mom. They always seem to have a chip on their shoulder and think they know more than everyone else. They tend to hate going to the doctor and try to treat all their family at home. They hate to admit mistakes until the problem has gotten out of control. They feel like if they reveal any weakness, they will be looked down upon. This is usually because they do 90% of what doctors get credit for, and then are treated poorly by the doctors. Story 10. Would worry way too much if things went sour and I suddenly had a van full of angry men with guns, badges, and mustaches all ready to take her side for something she did to me. Obviously, I'm not saying all female police officers are like this, but I would definitely worry that there was a chance things wouldn't end well and she would make my life a living hell with the local police department. Plus, I have heard way too many stories of female police officers cheating on their husbands with fellow officers. Again, not saying all, but the number of times I heard it was truly astounding. Story 11. Anything related to sex work, nurses, lawyers, anything related to activism or religion, anything related to social media or probably wacky stuff like crystals or astrology, etc. Each of them for different reasons. Story 12. Doctors and nurses, they cheat on you with one another. Trust me, it's probably because of those abnormally long shifts. It happened to me, a friend, another friend, and the stories I hear from people in that field. It's almost like a normal thing. Story 13. All the police officers I know will abuse their authority to manipulate you. There was that one police officer who got his ex-girlfriend admitted into a mental hospital without her permission based on a report he wrote. Story 14. Politicians, especially higher-up ones, and certain salespeople, such as car salespeople. If your whole job is being pushy and convincing people to buy things they don't actually want or need, it makes me question morals. Story 15. Therapists are some of the saltiest, most uncaring, manipulative people I have ever met. They all have compassion fatigue, so when they get home, they can no longer function as a normal partner, and they know how to manipulate and control people expertly. My experience is that therapists need to be with someone like a police officer or someone who has zero emotions, and they complain about their demanding clients all the time. You signed up to do literally this, listen to people vent about their problems, and you are surprised they are doing so? Do not get me wrong. Ironically, I do think seeing a therapist is extremely helpful and they provide an amazing service to society. I just will never be in a relationship with one ever again. Story 16. Lawyer, police officer, firefighter, hospital nurse. All have long and odd hours, and police officers, firefighters, and hospital nurses have dangerous jobs. Lawyers and police officers may have argumentative or authoritarian personalities, and a police officer could make your life difficult in a divorce or breakup. The same applies to an attorney. Story 17. Cops and firefighters, no offense, but police officers have a high spousal abuse rate, and firefighters are known for stepping out on relationships. I think what bothers me most about dating a police officer is who do you report the abuse to? They protect their own with lots of cover-ups. Story 18. Someone who chooses to profit from putting their children on the internet. The kids are posing, constantly being forced to do dance routines, or in the case of one guy, having his adorable son say and ask things the father has scripted, and then a wish list for things they want bought for the child. This exploitation is wrong on too many levels. Story 19. Police officer, human resources, flight attendant, nurses, especially traveling ones, musician, artist, professor depending on the discipline, current or former sex worker of any kind, sales, especially traveling sales. Adding bartenders and restaurant staff. Story 20. Currently dating an artist for 6 years, but if we ever broke up, I would be hesitant to date another. She is far more grounded and financially successful. She is very conscientious and has not needed to work much outside the industry than literally all of her friends and the new friends she makes on jobs. However, I find a lot of others aloof, self-centered, and sometimes just downright immature. A problem we still consistently run into is the compromises needed to make her career work. It can really feel like her creative career is greater than this relationship and everything else when it should be a lot more balanced. It's rough, but we've had lots of improvements. Story 21. There are definitely a few that I would not hesitate to say no to, but figuring out which ones are a toss-up, I think I would be pretty hesitant about being a lawyer or a restaurant owner. Story 22. A firefighter and I are one. Retired. Takes a very special person to put up with the life I led. Gone for 24 hours every third day, sometimes 48 if I got an overtime shift or was paying back an approved work-related shift swap. Putting up with me when I came home exhausted after a shift where I got overwhelmed. Trying to understand when I was quiet after having run a call with a loss. Dealing with the serious injury or death of a crew member or, even worse, an academy classmate. The list goes on. For that 24 hours, my wife was on her own. The water heater springs a leak, she had to deal with it. She had to try to explain when the kids were little why daddy was gone, especially with my baby girl. This list goes on as well. As I said, it takes a very special person. That person's not me. Story 23. Butchers or the people who work in a slaughterhouse. I do not remember where, but there is a study that shows that approximately 90% of their marriages are in shambles. Story 24. I don't have first-hand knowledge of this, but it's been widely reported that nursing is the hardest for relationships. Men and women nurses and doctors share sometimes horrible experiences. They have easy access to each other and work very long hours. Story 25. Military and police. Too much abuse and cheating going on, and I don't want my entire life being dictated by the military because my hypothetical partner is in it. Story 26. Salespeople because they are trained liars and are just good at manipulating people. Also, advertising, public relations, or marketing for similar reasons as above, and they just make the world a little worse. Influencers because that's not a real job. They contribute nothing of value, and I don't want to be part of their image. Any kind of sex work, including OnlyFans, for obvious reasons. Story 27. Flight attendants, sex workers, strippers, bottle service girls, and waitresses that dress really revealing. I personally think these types of women are more numb to creating emotional connections, and I speak from experience. Not to say all women in these lines of work are like this, but chances are high. Story 28. Doctors. I am in the medical field and constantly get hit on by doctors who are married. They think because they are doctors, they can have anyone. Most of them look at their coworkers as the job crush. They are always flirting with each other, and if you are not receptive to their flirtation, you are referred to as a tight ass. There are a few respectful ones, but they are rare. I would never want to date a man who works in a hospital and constantly flirts with other women. Some of the nurses also love that and do not care to flirt with a married man. I have also heard from coworkers that it is usually more than flirting, but I cannot speak on it because I have never seen it, though I can imagine it is true. Story 29. I think an actor. I am not saying I won't ever date one. It is actually cool to date an actor, but my distant cousin got married to an actor, and they started dating while she was in college. After that, they got married and had a cute baby boy 2 years ago. Since he is a famous actor in my country, this news was all over the internet. My sister was caught by the media confronting his mistress. She was his co-star, and he was unfaithful while my sister was pregnant. It has happened numerous times that actors have cheated on their wives or girlfriends with their co-stars, so even if I want to, it is kind of hesitating. Story 30. Chiropractors because they are not real doctors and most practice dangerous nonsense. Anyone thinking of going to a chiropractor should go to physical therapy instead. Also, any similar pseudoscience-related job like homeopathic medicine. Story 31. OnlyFans, profession, laugh, and anything adjacent. Stripper, camera performer, real-world prostitute as opposed to digital, etc. Social media influencer, nurse or doctor, flight attendant. Story 32. Law enforcement and military because of statistics and lifestyle. Pilots because of the attitude of most I know, way too flirty in every place they go. Chefs because of schedule and way too much substance abuse in that population. Story 33. Cop, lawyer, doctor, telemarketers, actresses, any girl in any entertainment work, college professors, any girl involved in political work. Story 34. Sausage filler who works at the sausage factory. Nobody should know how the sausage is made. Imagine the smell after work. And the stories. Wow, how boring. Story 35. Aside from the obvious ones like escorts, strippers, and OnlyFans models, I'm hesitant about dating nurses. I don't know why, but for some reason, they're always very promiscuous. It's to the point where my friends and I all joke about it to each other when one of us is talking to a woman who's a nurse. My friend is actually a nurse, and he tells me most of his coworkers are female, and all they do is talk about sex. Many of them have a rotation of men, and he says he hears unsettling things. They have guys who they label as free food, another as sex, and another as free rides. They all just chat about how they lead guys on. My informal theory is that the nursing environment is a mix of women seeing a bunch of traumatic things all the time, which makes them view casual sex as less serious. It is also a safe space for women where they can be open about this stuff, making them feel okay about it. It's also an extension of sorority life, a career where women are still partying like they are in university. Story 36. Social worker or some low-income job with high student debt. Also, probably a job that didn't require a master's degree at minimum, if I'm being honest. I have a graduate degree and just don't want to feel like someone is living off my paycheck. I'm also broadly worried about connecting if it's someone with a lower education level than me. At the risk of being honest, I was a gifted child and went to an elite college on a full scholarship. I really don't want to come off as unkind, but I've met very sweet women who just bore me. I've been unhappy and went cross-eyed from incredibly nice women who were attractive, but just not a ton upstairs. Like, I dated a super sweet nurse among others in healthcare and was just frustrated when a fun weekend was her baking me bread, watching reality TV, and being in bed by 10. Like, you are the kindest of people, and I can see how so many people would find you amazing wife material. I'm just, well, not your man. I'm sorry because you really deserve someone as warm-hearted as yourself. I'm just losing it because every question I ask gets a one-word answer followed by asking me what I'd like to eat for my next meal.